Being sick right now, I've had a lot of time to myself to think, and I was just watching Say Yes to the Dress. It's this show. If you don't know, it's basically where these women go into a bridal store, and it's sort of like a reality show where it's about the process that women go through picking a dress and the process that the shopkeepers go through helping those women to pick a dress to get married in. And it struck me that even though it seems like a very materialistic activity, I was feeling very emotionally involved. And I'm typically a very, I see myself as a non materialist. I mean, yes, what I work in is clothing, it's a very material field, and but I think the clothing just symbolizes deeper and more important sort of things for the person on the inside. And the wedding dress really, in a way, is like that. Because it's typically very carefully designed, very expensive, and the brides go to great lengths to pick out just the right one. And the moment where the bride, finally picks her dress is usually emotional. Like, sometimes people who are with her, helping her buy the dress, will start crying. And I wondered about why this was the case, why it was so emotional. And I think it is because, on a certain level, um, by buying the dress and taking that much effort to pick one, instead of just being like, oh, that one will do, and being willing to pay so much for something that is so carefully made, it reveals, I think, a level of care and investment on the part of the bride. By contrast, if a woman just picked some random dress and just went straight to her wedding day, and the dress was covered in, food stains or something, a person could very easily look and think, well, let's give her the benefit of the doubt, but there's a very good chance that she's not taking the groom or the marriage very seriously. And, it occurred to me then that in society, even though we've done a lot to try to level the playing field, the fact is that there are a lot of things we still do day to day that are built very much on built very much on this idea that for a person to have access to basic rights and dignities, they need to carry certain positions, and they need to be dressed the right way, and they need to have the right amount of money, and you know, for example, the boss of a workplace will often be treated very differently from how the newest recruit will be treated. And you might say, well, of course, the boss owns the place, the boss has the most money, the boss has the most experience, whereas the new recruit just got there, they have nothing. But really, why that's a reason to treat them differently in terms of expertise and in terms of how they would function within the workplace. It doesn't really follow from there that we treat one with higher dignity than the other, or treat one with more respect than the other. Especially since the boss will have once been a beginner, and the beginner could, if they work hard, one day be a boss. Like, ultimately, what a person is in a workplace shouldn't be what defines their humanity or their worth as an individual. And, so for a long time, even though I had been very pro policies that encourage people to work harder by not giving them as much, money to spend, basically, and I'd been more interested in saying, well, why don't we just give them household resources? What I sort of realize is that really, in saying that, what I'm saying is that unless these people achieve a certain degree of experience and profitability, monetary profitability in society, they aren't entitled to making the same basic life choices that somebody who does have those positions should have. I'm still basically saying, in my mind and in my heart, that a person who can't hold a job is entitled to less human dignity than someone who can. which is wrong. I think it's actually quite wrong. And, so I did this little thought experiment in my head where I thought, well, what if we did change society so that everyone really is treated exactly the same? That everybody, regardless of their position in society, was treated with equal dignity. No more of the assumption that just because somebody is married with children, that they are necessarily somehow better than people who aren't. No more of the assumption that just because one child is getting better grades, that they're necessarily a better person than the child who gets worse grades. What if we lived in a society where everyone, absolutely everyone, was treated with love and respect? And when I imagined that society, I imagined one where people who are having trouble looking after themselves would be helped by the people who can help them, and that they would be able to be rehabilitated and taught how to function better by these other people, because they would be encouraged and supported and loved instead of constantly kicked around and pushed down. And, certainly there are people who say, well, but I started out on the mean streets, and I worked hard and I worked my way up. Well, good for you. You had the ability to do that. Not everyone has that ability. And is it fair to ask people to acquire it just because you were able to? It's sort of like, asking somebody to walk when they were born paraplegic, or, and saying, well, I was able to walk, why can't you? Um, Certainly, there is an extent to which people can push themselves, but if you don't even have a sense of hope and no one's supporting you, that's going to be a lot harder than it has to be when there are people out there who could offer help and could offer support and encouragement if only they weren't stuck up on a high horse, you know? And my thoughts on this matter aren't even fully formed. I'm still thinking about all of the implications of this, but it was just a thought that I had on my heart and just wanted to share somehow. And, I guess I hope that one day I can be the kind of person where even if somebody is really annoying and stupid and frustrating to deal with, I'll still treat them with the same love and dignity that I would treat somebody who I consider to be worthy of that respect. Um, and it has currently been posing me a personal problem because, it's happened a couple of times now, well, a few times now, where I've fallen in love with these guys and formed relationships with them, but other people didn't approve of them. And instead of being supportive of them and believing in them anyway because I loved them and treating them with that love, I treated them the way other people wanted me to treat them or was telling me to treat them. I told them off for being the way they are. I shamed them. I tried to make them change. I tried to, uh, you know, I didn't treat them with proper respect as a human being. And you might want to argue, but some of those guys were acting like clowns. Some of them were involved in drugs. Why should you treat them with dignity? Well, I'm going to say again, if you really believe in a world where everyone should be equal and should be entitled to basic human rights, then those things shouldn't matter either. Everybody should have access to the feeling of being loved. And I think that if you can give people that sensation that they are loved and accepted, you don't have to force them to do anything. I think that if they really feel encouraged and supported, if they have that inner strength and warmth, and support, that they will make better choices on their own. No one will have to force them to do it. And again, I would rather live in a world like that because that's a world where everybody's voice matters and where everybody has some say in the quality of their own life. And yeah, gosh, I just hope that I can grow my heart big enough to be able to treat everyone that way.